Northern Hawke's Bay farmers are frustrated that other landowners in the area are not doing enough to control possums, leaving them exposed to a bovine tuberculosis outbreak, which Osprey admits it took its eye off. My apologies. Farmers at a meeting organised by Osprey at Portorino said those landowners, including some forestry companies and iwi, are not being held to the same poisoning standards as they are. They called on Osprey to stand up for those not pulling their weight, to take legal action to force them to do more to control possum numbers. Now that was read from a Farmers Weekly in February 2020. We are now in January 2021. And after another round of applications to the Maori Land Court to stop a 1080 drop on the 15,000 hectare Tataraakina C block, delaying urgent pest control work to be done, the possums are running riot. Northern Hawke's Bay farmers with infected cattle that need to be killed are out of pocket in the hundreds of thousands. This was right in the thick of lockdown that slowed processing plants to process these infected cattle, and in a drought, these farmers, you can only imagine, have been growing more and more frustrated with their battle with Osprey. We're joined now by one of the Hawke's Bay farmers, Lloyd Hollaway, who farms at Taharoto near up the Napier Taupo Road. Lloyd, thank you so much for coming on Sarah's Country. I can only imagine your frustration has been mounting to a point, and we would love to set the scene about your experience with the disease TB in your cattle, and take us right back to where it all started.
Well, we started off, we've been here 23 years. 2002, 2003, we had a reactor, broke down, went to infected status, and there was an agreement at that stage. It was the Animal Health Board running the poisoning programs in conjunction with the regional council. We had quite a meeting here, and it was stated that we had to do extra testing under the buffer, being in a buffer, put us into a buffer and test everything once a year, and if we wanted to sell or move anything to grazing, we had to test within 60 days of it going. So, and we did that on the agreement that whoever was doing the poisoning program was to keep poisoning and keep us safe from TB. So we actually did that for 18 years. We were clear. And everything was chugging along not too bad. The regional council did it up until 7 years ago. There was a herd of a lot of possums here. They got it down to a very low number, actually down to 1% residual crap. And then Osprey took it over the area. And in the 7 years after that, we had one lot of poisoning. Prior to that, we were getting poisoned every second year, and I think we might have gone, I'm pretty sure it was every second year all the way, and monitored in between. And then when Osprey took over, in their wisdom, they decided, I'm buggered if I know why, but we only needed poisoning 1 in 7 years. And the ground poisoning was done 1 year, and the 1080 on the forestry and native dock blocks was done but in a different time frame. It wasn't done in coordination. And anyway, we ended up getting reinfested because we were in the buffer hard against the Tataraakina, where the TB has been known to be for before we got here. Probably, I don't know, I'm going back probably 30 years. And the last herd of cattle on Tataraakina, I understand, there was 50 cattle that tested over 40 come back positive to TB. So they killed the whole lot. Now they're farming no cattle. Or not farming at all because it's all reverted back. So now we're back to infected status. Osprey come here and told us it was their fault because they hadn't poisoned. A fellow called Kevin Cruz and he also sat at our table there and told us we wouldn't be financially disadvantaged in any way. And we thought, shit, this is good. So they're going to look after everybody. And we found out it's a load of bullshit, and he just lied to us. Because since then, we've had a report done by MPI, and it says that we're 425 grand out of pocket up until June. And since then, we've had to buy an 800 bales of bales for last winter at our cost. So we're looking at 550 grand roughly through Osprey not doing their job. And we were in the original buffer, which I understand there was 54 farms. Now it's blown out. There's 572, I think, and basically goes to the coast on north of Napier. And it's not 100% solid TB, but there's patches of farms breaking down. I think we're up to about 25 or 26 farms. And I've just found out that over towards Lochinvar, which is on the other side of where we are for the native bush and pine trees, 3 dairy farms are broken down there in a group. And then at Reparoa, around Reparoa, Taupo, I understand there's possibly some more. So if you like, from Taupo to the coast, there's scattered infections of TB, which is a massive bloody area. And for them to push it back to the original buffer, I'd say we're going to be in a buffer for at least the next 20 years. So, yeah, you can sort of see why we're a bit pissed off.
I can, absolutely. And I'm sure our listeners and viewers can absolutely sympathise with you, obviously both financially, but also the fact that you felt like you haven't been listened to. What has happened in your relationship with Osprey since that meeting at Putorino in February this time last year in terms of developments towards a goal to improve pest management in the area?
Well, they've come into our valley last November, and we normally used to get about 6 poisoners. Go through, and it'd take them 2.5 months to do the Watcher Valley on the Napier side of the Mohawk River. This year, we ended up with 2 fellas poisoning, and they were about 6 months. And that's been completed. So you would think there wouldn't be any more breakdowns in the clear herds, but we have just tested, in November, October, we tested clear. We're C1s now. And the day after, one farmer, a farm away from us, he broke down the next day. So what Osprey's done hasn't actually got rid of the problem. And one of the original farmers up at Tataraakina, he broke down, he's tested clear, and he's just broken down again. So whatever Osprey's done hasn't cleared the problem up. And everybody's just sitting there, it's like playing Russian roulette, I suppose. We're just waiting, you luck of the draw, whether or not you stay clear or you get infected. And you talk to Osprey, everybody's got a different answer. And the farmer that just broke down, he had been infected. He got a suspect. They wanted to kill it. He said, well, I want it cultured. And the Osprey vet tried like buggery to talk him out of culturing it, because she said you might get infected and it'll bugger up you getting off TB, infected status. He said, well, I want it tested because I want to make sure it's going to be clear. So he actually went to the works. He got a text from the woman vet again, asking him, to reconsider about getting it cultured. If we can't see anything, we'll classify it clear. He's put his foot down and said, I want it cultured, and bugger me days, it's just come back in the last few days as TB. It shouldn't be for the farmers pushing Osprey to do the job. Osprey should be telling us this is what happens, and it should be set in concrete, so everybody's treated the same. But we're not. Some people, if you haven't upset the boat, you get quite a good ride. And if you have a bit of somebody that speaks up a bit like me, where you get a bit of a shove up the disc.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that way seems to be in life, Lloyd. But you suggesting that Osprey are wanting a clear status more than a farmer?
Well, it appears like it. They're going to one particular vet, Gillian Atkinson, her name is. It's her area. She's trying to get everybody clear. Apparently, when it started breaking down, I was told she couldn't get her head around that it had broken down here. Well, it has. And now she's pushing everybody to get off and be clear as quick as possible. And it appears by this last event that I told you about that she's prepared to do anything rather than test the cattle properly.
Lloyd,
as far as I'm concerned, if they turn up with a lump, you should be suspended. Yeah. Then they blood test them 10 days later. And if the blood test comes back as not likely to be TB, well, you go back to your original status. Otherwise, you stay suspended. And they culture, when they kill the beast, they culture the glands. And if it turns out not to be TB, well, you go back to your original status and you carry on. If it is, well, at least you know you've already got it. Otherwise, this fellow could have sold cattle on and passed it on to somebody else.
Lloyd, I do have, in Osprey's defence, there has been news that they will increase testing in higher risk areas. Do you believe that this will help bring down the levels with more testing? You suggest?
Yeah, it will, but they ain't giving the testers any more staff, or bugger all more staff, but they're expecting them to do all this extra testing. Well, the testers we've got to run off their bloody feet, and now they want them doing bovis testing as well. So unless you're going to equip the poor buggers with more staff and help them out, they get, I presume, they get paid on a weekly wage. If somebody wants you to do 50% more, you either bring in 50% more staff, or I dare say you offer them 50% more pay.
Yeah.
And they haven't had the offer of the 50% more pay, but they're expected to do it. These bosses sit in the bloody office, they don't pull their finger out and come and give these fellas a hand. You know?
Yeah. Now, Lloyd, since we spoke previous to Christmas, the application that was before the Maori Land Court on this particular Tataraakina C trust block was holding a lot of things up, and particularly an aerial drop of 1080. But this seems to just in the last week be dismissed by the judge, basically saying, "Don't come before me again." This will be a positive to get Osprey into an area that's been of concern for over a decade. Yeah,
well, that judgment actually came out on Christmas Eve. So it's nearly been a month, all right? And to date, nothing's bloody happened. We've rung Osprey and asked them, because we were told, we were led to believe that as soon as the word come, we're putting the 1080 on. Now, we're planning. Well, wouldn't you have done some planning whether you were sitting on your backside waiting for the judge to make up his mind? And it's quite urgent, this. Now, it originally was put down to be poisoned in June, July, last winter. The injunction was put in, so they didn't do it. Well, now, exactly what I told you before, it's got uncoordinated with the poisoning they've already done. So basically, whenever they finally make up their mind to do Tataraakina, they've basically got to do all us again, because where they've done has been reinfected from animals from out that haven't been poisoned through. And this has been going on for 18 bloody years. We've had 2 goes at Tataraakina. It's been poisoned once, but too big a gap in between. All that money's down the drain, and now go back to planning. Well, they do too much planning and not enough poisoning. And I've got to say, 1080 is a prick of a poison, but for big areas of rugged, steep country, which this is, it's the best and the cheapest method we've got. And until they find something better, we've got to suck it up and just use it. And if it had been used 15, 18 years ago when we first broke down properly, we wouldn't be infected. Other people in Hawke's Bay wouldn't be infected, and wider afield. And the Maori Land would be clear. They could do whatever they bloody liked on it. And I've got to say, the majority of the owners of Tataraakina want it done. There's only 2 or 3 that have been a pain in the arse to even their own people for a number of years, before we got here, over bloody 25 years. And they're just holding up their own people. They're actually buggering up their own farms. There's 2 Maori corporations right here, and they've both got TB. It's actually costing their own people, which is a great shame because, and it shouldn't matter whether you're Maori, Pākehā or bloody purple, everybody should be treated the same. And it seems to be, when I told Ospri to get stuffed at one point, I got a email sent to me of things they could do to me to pull me into line, and I said to them, send that to Tataraakina and tell Tataraakina to do it. But no, never happened. We sat around for 6 months, and we're still sitting around. We're waiting for action, but it's costing all us fellas money. Well, we're waiting for the action. If they had to spend $100,000 in the Watcher Valley here and poison it consistently like the regional council was doing, we wouldn't be in a situation now. And Ospri, we're paying money as levies into this. The forestry companies, they don't pay any levies, but they still get poisoned. And it's our money, the farmers' money, that's paying for the forestry to get poisoned. And the more trees are going, the less monitoring we've got from cattle, and the more habitat you're creating for the possum. In the Watcher Valley, I'd estimate probably, and I'm only guessing, 2,000 to 2,500 hectares has gone into trees this year. The buffer's just about knackered now because large areas are starting to go into pine trees because it's becoming uneconomic to farm with TB. So if the government wants pine trees, well, they're going to get pine trees, all right, because us fellas can't stay here.
Yeah, it's like there's 2 plagues on the go blanketing the land where you are. Lloyd, our hearts go out to your situation and that of, as you describe, getting into the hundreds of farmers between Taupo and the coast, whereby the outbreak of TB seems to be getting away. And it's good to see that Chief Judge Winston Isaac of the Maori Land Court has actually put his foot down and said enough's enough. But Osprey has to be very careful in the precedent that they are setting in terms of one rule for one and one rule for another type of landowner. So I look forward to following up, and hopefully we can get a spokesperson from Ospri on Cirrus Country very shortly to follow on from Lloyd Hollaway's yarn that he's had there and put to us very frankly.